guys, it's Liz from Arrow Acres, and I'm going to show you the basics of single crochet today. So what you need is a crochet hook and some yarn. So before we get started, we need to make a slip knot. The way that I make my slip knot is I take the tail of my yarn, so that's the end, fold it in half about 6 inches or so, and cross the tail over the working yarn. The working yarn is the yarn that's attached to your ball of yarn. Now, from this loop, you want to go under the loop like this. With your right, I'm a righty, so do this with your right hand if you're righty. It's going to be opposite if you're a lefty. Go over the tail and pinch that yarn. Now with your left hand, grab the working yarn and the tail. Hold them tight. Now this piece that's in my right hand is going to slide over my finger and make a slip knot. So now I can take the working yarn, not the tail, and tighten that loop up by pulling it. So you want to take your crochet hook, put your hook in the loop, and tighten it up so that it's snug on your hook but not too tight. See how I could still see I can see the table below through that? That's good. You don't want it too tight like this because it's going to make all of your stitches harder to work in. Okay. So first we need to chain or make a foundation. So to make a chain, hold your yarn however is comfortable for you. For me, it's on the inside of my ring finger and my middle finger, over my index finger, and I hold my work with these fingers and my index finger stays out. So to get started is a little tricky because you have nothing to hold on to. So grab the tail yarn, and what you want to do is with your hook from the front and under the yarn, turn your hook and pull through the loop on your hook. That's chain 1. I'm going to do about 10 for this demonstration. So again, hook in the front and under your yarn, turn the hook towards you and through the loop. Again, hook in front and under the yarn, turn the hook to you and pull through the loop. Now remember, our loops are like teardrops. The point of the hook right here should always be pointing towards the point of your teardrop when you're coming through. If it is not turned enough, it'll catch. If it's turned too much, it will catch. As soon as it's pointing down, it'll come right through. Okay? So let's do that again. Hook in front and under, turn to you, and pull through. So I'm rolling it in my hand. I'm not using my whole wrist or else everything will get sore. So try and get used to rolling your hook in your hand. Right? And don't feel the need to pull on this yarn to tighten up your stitch when you're done. You don't want these stitches too tight. They will make everything harder to go into. Okay, so let's see. How many do we have? To count our stitches that we have, you can see the V in the front of your work. So right there is a V. That's 1 stitch. Each V is 1 stitch. So we have 1 V, 2 V, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we do not count the loop that's on our hook. So let's do 8, 9, 10, and I'm going to do 1 more as my turning chain. So now as a beginner, you'll have a chain like this. All of yours may not be the same size. That takes practice, and that's a tension issue. But what you can do to work on our first single crochets is you can either, with the V's facing you, pick up the top loop to start working our single crochets, or a little bit more advanced way is to look at the back of your chain. So I just turned it over And now you can see this bump. It's this one piece in the middle of each stitch. This is called the back ridge or the back bump. I like to go into this because it leaves these pretty V's on the edge of your work. So it's a little bit harder to do. It's a little bit more time consuming, but in the end, I think it's worth it. So we do not count the loop on our hook. We do not count our first stitch, which if we're looking at the back, is this right here between my fingers. So this is going to be our second chain from the hook, and that's where we want to start because we're going to work on single crochets. So to do that, we go under the back ridge, which is just that one strand. We go same as we did on our chains. The hook stays in the front and under the yarn, and we turn the hook to us, okay? So I went through the loop, I grabbed my yarn and pulled back through the one loop. Now I should have 2 on my hook. Grab my yarn and pull through 2. That's a single crochet. This V in the front and this piece across the top are what make the single crochet. If you turn it, you have a new V on the top. So I'm going to go into the next stitch. Well, if we pull up on our piece, the yarn on our hook is attached to this piece here, and it's pulling up and making a hole right here. So I know that we just came out of this stitch. So my next stitch is going to be where my left thumb is, right here. So I insert my hook, I grab my yarn and pull back through. I have 2 loops. I grab my yarn and I pull through 2. Okay, I'll do that again nice and slow. Go under the back ridge. And do you see I'm using my fingers to help the hook through the stitch it needs to go through? I'm not holding back here. I'm holding right where I'm working. Grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. In the loop, grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. In the loop, grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. And again, I'm doing a lot of rolling the hook in my fingers. My whole hand is not moving too much. Okay, that was my last stitch. Now we can look at our row. This is the front. This is the top. See all the V's running down? These are my stitches, so I can count to make sure I have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We do not count the loop on our hook. At the end of every row of single crochet, you have to chain 1. It's the same as when we did in the very beginning on our foundation chain. Hook in front and under the yarn, turn, pull through the loop, chain 1. Now we're at the height of our next row. We're going to turn our work towards us and over, because if you are a righty, you will be working right to left the entire time. If you are a lefty, you'll be working left to right. So now we're going to single crochet across our first row that we just made. We do not count the loop on our hook. We do not count the chain 1 we just made, which is that first little V. So this is our first stitch that we want to go in. You want to go in with the front of your hook. Don't try to get in with this point over here backwards like this. It's too hard. Right with the front of your hook. Underneath the V. Make sure you catch both parts of that V. Grab your yarn, pull through the V, grab your yarn, pull through 2 loops. Okay, so remember, if we pull up a little bit, it'll show us the hole that we just came out of. So our next stitch is right here. You can turn your work so that you can see the top and make sure you get under both parts of the V. Grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. Next stitch. So ready? Here's our loop on our hook attached to this stitch, which is what we just made. It's a V in the front and a bar across the top, and it's coming out of that hole. So we go in the next one. Remember, both parts of the V. Grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. Grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. Right? Next stitch, get the V, grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. Next stitch, grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. If you are going in, grabbing your yarn and pulling through this and this, that is a slip stitch. It is not a single crochet. It will be tighter. It is a stitch, but it is not a single crochet. So make sure you're not pulling through both right away. In your next stitch, grab your yarn, pull through 1, grab your yarn, pull through 2. In, grab, through 2. Okay, we're getting to the end. If you're having a hard time seeing your last stitch, you can lay your work down. If there's still a bit over to the left, means you have 1 stitch left. Sometimes your last stitch is going to look a little funny. It's going to have a little bump at the end. I'm going to do my last stitch and then I'm going to turn over and I'm going to show you the last stitch on the next row. Okay, remember we always chain 1 at the end and we turn towards us and over to the left. Okay, so now if we go back along this row that we just did, when we get to our last stitch, we have a V right here. Turn it like this. And then do you see this little V at the bottom with this bump at the end? I always say look for the bump. That's your bumper to tell you to stop. That's the end of your row. That little V is your last stitch. Don't skip it, okay? It may be even smaller on your piece. You may have worked it a little bit tighter, but you can see the size difference. I mean, these V's are pretty big, but that last one is little. You can always pull the bump down if you need to make it bigger, and then see it's as big as the other ones. But that little bump at the end tells you to stop, okay? So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. And good luck. Happy crocheting.